Israel and Iran, or if you prefer in the historical context, Judea and Persia, have decided to go to war with each other. Well, they're not exactly at war just yet. They are at a point where they are just trading blows back and forth. So, we're going to take some time. We're going to talk about what happened with this over the weekend, some of the potential of what could possibly happen with that after the fact, what's actually happening, and what our senators and representatives are trying to do with our money over it, and an actual maybe moment of clarity for Biden. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens with that, where this goes, and what happens there. In other news, which on any other week would have been the top news story for the week, the trial of the century, the trial that may tear our republic apart, has started today. Yesterday, actually. So we're going to talk about a bit of what has happened on the start of this, some of the concerns with the jury, some of what is happening with the trial, and where we go with that, especially what is on trial. We'll go over what's happening there, what we do with that, and what this could mean for our upcoming election. A mass shooting happens in Chicago, and, well, the news media covers it briefly, and then it just goes the way of the wayside because, well, that's what happens with news that is not exactly convenient. And, wouldn't you know it, 26 barges break loose from a tugboat and go floating down the Ohio River. I swear, it's going to be like the red balloon over and over and over again. It is going to be all of this and more, so grab some friends. Pass the word, because we only grow by word of mouth. So strap yourselves in, get some snacks, and prepare to get caught up in the next 2 hours with the news that has happened over the past week. And war I despise, because it means destruction of innocent lives. War means tears to thousands of mothers' eyes when their sons go off to fight and lose their lives. I said war, huh? What is it good for? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good evening, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a lot to go over here today. And it's weird because usually when I do a Thursday show, I have a typically lighter show the following Tuesday. But hey, Judea and Persia decided to go to war at a time when Gog and Magog are already at war. I'm not saying that we're sitting and facing down Armageddon, and I'm not saying that what happened in the pages of Revelation have necessarily happened now. I'm just saying, with a coincidence going on, it would not be bad to start repenting for some of your sins right about now. Might be time to look into some of that here, but we're going to go over some of what's happening there, what this means, and where this could potentially go, including a situation that's possible where both people are trying to appease the people in their lands without actually wanting to go to a full-on war. Thank you, Styx, for pointing out that possibility to me that I can come back and transmit as well. I will give credit where credit is due, but we'll go over some of that, what is happening there, and the fact, of course, that our congresspeople want to spend your money on what is happening between Iran and Israel. And we might even get some oil news coming out of this as well. And of course, Donald has gone to trial. We'll be talking about the fact that it may be impossible for him to get a jury trial. I'm kind of curious to see how they plan to find people that don't know what's going on in the case that has been plastered all over the news everywhere. But we will see if anybody can even be seated at this trial. We'll go over some of that, what's happening with that and where they go. I've even got some foreign news off of this because the entire world got mildly disappointed when the attacker in Sydney was not Muslim. And almost as soon as the aftermath of that was over, a Muslim went into a church and stabbed a priest. Yeah, that's the timeline that we live in right now. We get entire swaths of people that are disappointed that it's not a Muslim, and then the Muslim says, okay, I'll do it. That was so fucking stupid, I'm sorry. But we'll talk about that. Plus, a little bit of the Non-Citizen Voting Act that's going through Congress. I have some thoughts on that one, and I have some thoughts on the reaction of that one. So we'll go over some of that as well. Plus, we've got a couple things I like and a couple things that I hate. That's actually a short segment today. Usually I have to stop like a half an hour in if I want to get to everything or do two shows, one of the two. But I've only got like 5 tabs on that window, so we might get through everything here tonight. We've got a lot to go over here today. So again, strap yourselves in, find some friends, get some people in here as we sit and discuss the news. And of course, before we get started, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus and Overruled with KTZed. Always check out that great programming. Great people to spend time with. Even if KTZed is out there sounding like a little old lady, which that was interesting to hear. We'll probably go and raid Steven Ignoramus because he's doing a music stream tonight. And he'll be getting started probably right about the time we're finishing up with a translation from Eastern Time to Central Time as well. So anyway, enough of that. Let's get down to the news. Let's get started. And we are going to start, of course, with war. Huh? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Let's do this. Uh-oh, my chat. Oh, there. I was going to say. My chatbot's not loading up on the top here. And, by the way, do feel free to chat about everything that you see here. The more chats show up on the screen, the more we get promoted up to the front page. And I want to get promoted up to the front page. You can chat in. And if it is savory to read on YouTube, I will read it out loud on stream. As it, for the most part, comes in. There are a few things that get said on Rumble that I cannot say on YouTube. So do keep that in mind. But I think most people are pretty good about that as well. All right, let's get the live chat up. Let's get started. Hang on. I think we might have to take a troll out of here. Let's see here. We're going to put you on timeout for about 5 minutes. Thank you for that incredibly astounding information. In 5 minutes, you can come back. And if you screw up again, we'll do more. But I'm a benevolent leader out here. Alright, let's get started. The Mogwai says, just launch the damn nuke so I can start using caps as currency. I have been saving them because I love glass bottle soda and glass bottle hard cider. I am saving my caps. War, huh? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. War. War never changes. The Mogwai says, Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39, also a good one to bring up in the midst of this as well. Absolutely. Alright, let's do it. Let's get started. Get the Rumble chat back up here. So I can see if our friend Dual Helix comes in and says anything, which I know he will at some point. From U.S. News and World Report, to start with today. Iran launches retaliatory attack on Israel with hundreds of drones and missiles. Coming to U.S. News and World Report by Reuters. Dan Williams and Parisa Hazefi reporting. Iran launched explosive drones and fired missiles at Israel late on Saturday night In its first direct attack on Israeli territory, a retaliatory strike that raised the threat of a wider regional conflict as the U.S. pledged ironclad backing for Israel. They've walked back a little bit on that one lately. We'll talk about that later in this stream. Sirens wailed, and Reuters journalists in Israel heard distant heavy thuds and bangs from what local media called aerial interceptions of explosive drones. Authorities said a 7-year-old girl was critically injured. U.S. President Joe Biden, who spoke by phone with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, said he would convene a meeting of leaders of the Group of 7 major economies on Sunday to coordinate a diplomatic response to what he called Iran's brazen attack. 6 months into an Israeli-Hamas war in Gaza, and amid growing risks of a greater regional war, Axios quoted a senior White House official as saying Biden also told Netanyahu the U.S. would oppose any Israeli counterattack against Iran. That is the cooler heads prevailing that I mentioned a bit ago. The UN Security Council was set to meet at 1600 hours Eastern Time on Sunday. After the Israeli requested it condemned Iran's attack and designated the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps a terrorist organization according to a schedule released late on Saturday. Israel's military spokesperson, Rear Admiral, that is a hell of a title to have, by the way, Daniel Hagari said Iran launched dozens of ground-to-ground missiles at Israel, most of them intercepted outside of Israel's borders. They included more than 10 cruise missiles, he said. The Iranian salvo of more than 200 drones and missiles caused light damage to one Israeli military facility, Hagari said. The Israeli military later said it was not advising any residents to prepare to take shelter. This revision of an earlier alert appeared to signal the end of the threat. Israel's Channel 12 TV cited an unnamed Israeli official as saying there would be a significant response to the attack. Iran had vowed retaliation for what it called an Israeli strike on its Damascus consulate on April 1st that killed 7 officers of the IRGC, including 2 senior commanders. Tehran said its strike was punishment for Israeli crimes. Was it, though? Israel has neither confirmed nor denied the responsibility for the consulate attack. That's bullshit. They came right out like the next day and said, yeah, no, it was us. Death to Persia. Should Israeli regime make another mistake, Iran's response will be considerably more severe, the Iranian mission to the UN said, warning the U.S. to stay away. However, it also said Iran now deemed the matter concluded. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said America would not seek conflict with Iran. Bullshit. But would not hesitate to act to protect U.S. forces and support defense of Israel. I will remind you, by the way, Iran has already come back at Israel for killing their general in Damascus in Syria. But we still not have had, I'm sorry, let me say that not Joe Biden-ish. We have still not had the retaliatory strike that we were promised from the drone attack on our troops in Iraq. Yeah, you remember that? Oh man, I still have my tagline up here. Let me change that. I forgot I had that up from Final Fantasy X. By the way, I just finished Final Fantasy X, and I'm kind of pissed because the VRAM glitch popped in again. And I was not happy to see that. Mogwai says, really scare Iran. Launch Ted Cruz missiles. Yeah, but you can't send those to Punta Cana. We have been itchy to screw with Iran since the Reagan admin. We have been itchy to screw with Iran since World War I hate to tell you. That is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Iran has been in our crosshairs since the Byzantine Empire. So we've got a lot of catching up to do with that. Now, what do we always do when our libertarian friends say that we cannot talk about war unless we can point to it all on a map? Let's get the map up. Because there is some tricky stuff going on over here as well. So, Israel, Persia, Iran. Tehran is the capital. So we had a series of missiles that flew from Tehran. We had some that flew, I believe, from Kuwait. And we had some that flew from Yemen. And they were cruise missiles, so they traveled hundreds and hundreds of miles to go through. By the way, people in Saudi Arabia, mostly villagers, because there's not a lot of city in this region of the desert. There's a little bit here, but not a lot of major city here, but did watch these missiles go over their homes. Coming from Yemen, over Medina, through Jordan, and in towards Israel. Same with Iraq. Those missiles had to fly over Baghdad, which gives a little bit of interesting meaning to the was it Outkast was the one? Yeah, the Outkast song. I wanted to say 303, but I didn't think that they were around yet at the time. So yes, we literally had bombs over Baghdad coming from Tehran into Israel. Now the Iron Dome intercepted the majority of it. As they said, there was one Israeli airbase that took minor damage from one of the missiles getting through. Which leads me to question a lot of things. Especially given what people know about the political situation there, about the religious situation, and the fact that there was almost no damage. In fact, everything could have been intercepted, and that is not including what happened with the US and the UK involvement, which the US and the UK very proudly came in and shot down a lot of the missiles that were coming into the Israeli area. Now, why do I say this? It has been said that somebody in the Biden admin, probably not Joe himself, did take some time and go and talk to Tehran and say, okay, we understand that you have to retaliate, but here's what you're allowed to do, otherwise we're going to go make your life a living hell. The red line in the sand. But more importantly, I don't know, and this is just a curiosity to me, whether or not Iran actually was looking to come back in and yell death to Israel. I mean, it would be within their motive and their MO, but everything that they put out there was set to be intercepted by the Iron Dome and could easily be taken out by the Iron Dome. And the only thing that they hit was an empty airbase in the midst of this. Now, the people of Persia, Iran, are in a fairly precarious position with their government right now, who is more or less tyrannical towards them. So one of the questions that we do have to come back and wonder is if they were put in a position where they actually had to act or face a revolution from their own people. They were attacked, and now they have to come back in and respond in kind, otherwise their people are going to say, hey, what the fuck are we doing here? Let's go back and death to Israel. Come on, launch the strikes, let's go. In fact, I think in the state of Israel, there's going to be calls to do that, and Israel can possibly come back, if they do something, go back after an empty airbase, because I'm sure that the people of Israel are putting in the elbow into Bibi and saying, hey, what the fuck? Come on, do something. Look at what they did to us. Do something, man. Come on. And like when I look at that, when I see that here, one of the other things I point out, because this happened late on Saturday night, our time. This actually happened while I was playing Final Fantasy X on Saturday on stream. Our time. But Israel is 10 hours ahead of us, which means that we would have been after sunrise on Sunday, which meant Shabbat was over. The Jewish leadership in the religious state of Israel was up, ready to go back and respond, where it would have been very easy, especially if Iran really wanted to wipe Israel off the face of the map. And I'm sure that they still have people up there who are reformed, not as eagerly practicing. I mean, not everybody in Israel is an Orthodox who could be manning the stations on Shabbat. But for the most part, they waited till Shabbat was over, to where there would be a reasonable level of response that could possibly come. I don't think they were looking to hurt anybody. I think they were just looking to send a message, and I think there was an even-handed approach that the message they were looking to send was to their own people and saying, hey, yeah, we're doing what you want. Don't riot. Don't have a revolution. But I also can't read the minds of the people in Tehran either, so that's just a way of looking at it. And again, thanks to the Hexenhammer for bringing up that kind of idea for it. Let's grab one from the Disassociated Press. The DP, if you will. Let's see. 22 minutes in, and Edgar has a map up. Yeah, there'll be a Thursday show. No, there will not be a Thursday show. I actually have plans on Thursday, and I cannot do a Thursday show. Oh, this many interceptions, not one thrown by a Packers quarterback. Hey, those are fighting words. If Israel goes over that many countries, you will see calls for war. Well, war, huh? What is it good for? Absolutely nothing! Israel hails success in blocking Iran's unprecedented attack. Biden now seeks a diplomatic response. Of course you have a success in your attack. We built your Iron Dome system, and we resupply it. By the way, that's coming out of your taxpayer dollars. From Tia Goldenberg. Israel on Sunday hailed its air defenses in the face of an unprecedented attack by Iran, saying the system thwarted 99% of the more than 300 drones and missiles launched toward its territory. Regional tensions were high, amid fears of an Israeli counterstrike that could fuel further escalation. Biden said he would convene a meeting Sunday to the Group of Seven to coordinate united diplomatic response to Iran's brazen attack. The U.S. made clear it would not participate in any offensive action against Iran. Scout's honor. And totally not what the other cross fingers thing means. We don't seek a war with Iran. We're not looking for escalation here, White House National Spokesperson John Kirby told NBC, with his fingers crossed behind his back. Iran launched the attack in response to a strike widely blamed on Israel that hit an Iranian consulate building in Syria earlier this month and killed 2 Iranian generals. Israel said Iran launched 170 drones, more than 30 cruise missiles, and more than 120 ballistic missiles. For those of you keeping score at home, that is 320 pieces of ordnance. By Sunday morning, Iran said the attack was over, and Israel reopened its airspace. So, they were successful, apparently. Look at some of the live updates, see if there's some new stuff coming up here. 21 hours ago, Israel delays Rafah offenses as it waits a response to Iranian attack. From CNN staff, Israel was set to take its first step towards a ground offensive in Rafah this week, but has delayed those plans as it mulls a response to Iran's attack, 2 Israeli sources have told CNN. Yeah, gee, I wonder why you wouldn't want to fight a 2-front war. Two Palestinian farmers killed after confrontation with Israeli settlers near the West Bank city of Nablus. That's more of what's going on directly in Israel. China notes Iran's position on Israeli attack and does not condemn strikes. Yeah, China's not a big fan of Israel, so that wasn't surprising. China said it noted Iran's statement that the actions were against Israel were an exercise of the right to self-defense during a phone call between the foreign ministers and the 2 nations on Monday, and did not condemn the weekend strikes. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, try having that name in this country, told his Iranian counterpart that Hossein Amir Abdollahian that China condemned the attack on a consulate building in the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus, according to a statement issued by China's foreign Ministry of Foreign Affairs, rather. The Chinese foreign minister added the incident seriously violates international law and is unacceptable. Separately, China's special envoy to the Middle East, Zhai Jun, met with Irit Ben Abba Vitali, Israel's ambassador to China, on Monday, in which the latter expressed Israel's position and concerns on the conflict in Gaza. Zhai said China was deeply concerned about the current escalation of regional tensions and conflicts, and bloodshed serve no interest to no one. Well, we'll see. It's definitely a precarious situation. In news that surprises nobody, by the way, the Mogwai says, get a neocon in the White House and you will see Iran invade faster than a South Carolina senator at a bar named Pickles. Not naming names. Is there a bar named Pickles somewhere near you that we could probably look up and find information about? Not that we don't already know the information you're trying to go with that, but... Let's see, Israel's military chief says Israel will respond to Iran's weekend missile attack. From Joseph Fetterman. Israel's military chief said Monday that his country will respond to Iran's weekend attack, but he did not elaborate on when or how, as the world leaders urged against retaliation, trying to avoid a spiral of violence in the Middle East. The Iranian attack on Saturday came in response to a suspected Israeli strike 2 weeks earlier on an Iranian consulate building in the Syrian capital Damascus. Israeli military chief Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi said Monday that Israel is considering its next steps, but that the Iranian strike will be met with a response. Well, Halevi gave no details, probably because they don't have a plan just yet. The Army spokesperson, Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, says Israel will respond at the time that we choose. Both men spoke at the Nevatim Air Base in southern Israel, which Hagari said suffered only light damage in the Iranian attack. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been huddling with top officials to discuss a possible response. For a second day straight, the government made no announcements on any decisions. Meanwhile, they had plenty of doctored photos of a certain president in the war room, probably watching Matlock, but they probably green screened over and put a picture of some defense general in there while he was being briefed. But he did call a lid very early, and I was trying to find news on that one, and I just couldn't. But he says, yep, by 5:23 we're not going to take any responses or do anything. Probably because they couldn't get the super drugs to work. Let's get rid of some of these tabs. I know, again, we've got way too many. From Politico. This seems to be a major strategic error on the part of Iran. From Michael Hirsch. Like many Americans, Richard Haas is still trying to understand why Iran decided to attack Israel directly over the weekend with a barrage of more than 300 missiles and drones, most of which were shot down. The attack was a retaliation for an airstrike by the Israel earlier this month that killed the top general with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Damascus. But Haas believes Tehran has miscalculated and will come to regret its decision to shift from its longtime strategy of using proxy forces in places like Syria and Iraq into launching a direct attack on civilian area in Israel, which has only rekindled sympathy for Israelis. Yeah, that's probably... I didn't think about that. The Iranians have lost control of the narrative, Haas said. Haas, the author of multiple books about foreign policy, retired as a president of the Council on Foreign Relations last year after nearly 20 years. Previously, he was the director of policy planning at the State Department under Secretary of State Colin Powell in the run-up to the Iraq invasion in 2003. Today, Haas publishes a weekly Substack called Home and Away. That's an interesting point to come up with when we look at this too, because it was just last Thursday that I was coming out and telling you guys, hey, we got to stop. We got to slow down what's going on here with some of these ground offensives and the fucking over and over and over again of Israel into Gaza territory, getting in more and more to civilians over and over again. I've said from the beginning, it was good for Israel to come back out and retaliate and actually have a response to the attacks from October 7th. That was a good thing, even though our friends on the left were yelling for a ceasefire by October 8th, because they don't believe that Israel has any right to exist. But even I've said, and me being an ardent fan of Israel for Christian reasons, hey, at some point here, probably about the turn of the year, it might be time to slow that shit down. Because you're starting to lose the optics war at some point. And they are. They are definitely starting to lose the optics war, because the time to quit was probably around the end of December. Like, hey, okay, we made our point. We understand that Hamas is hiding amongst civilians. We've taken enough of your boys and girls and children. You know you learned your lesson. Now we're going to come back out here, and if you do it again, we'll wipe you off the face of the map. But now, especially given the fact that Iran is aligned with Gaza, now we're sitting in a situation where, by proxy, whether or not this is true will depend again on backroom meetings that most of us will never be privy to see. But by optics, Gaza is a proxy of Iran. But regardless, by proxy, Gaza has struck back against Israel again, going through Iran to do so. And this changes the position that Israel's in and gives them essentially the authority to come back out, at least in the optical sense, and continue to do what even people like me have been calling them out for at that point. So, Haas has a point. The Mogwai says, oh, Israel has a plan for retaliation, I bet. Yeah, everybody knows that. I know that. You know that. Bacteria with a long enough telescope on fucking Mars know that. Hey, man, why do you have these Middle Eastern guys on the TV? Jill, tell them it's time for Law and Order. Come on, man, put on NCIS. I like that Ted Danson, man. Interesting news from the Abraham Accords, which have not been brought up in this conflict, in spite of the fact that I think that a lot of that is what's keeping us out of World War III right now. From the Daily Wire, Saudi Arabia publicly acknowledges defending Israel from Iranian attacks, according to reports from Ryan Saavedra. Saudi Arabia reportedly publicly acknowledged on Monday it helped defend Israel from the unprecedented attack over the weekend from the Islamic Republic of Iran. The US, UK, France, Jordan, UAE, and Saudi Arabia all participated in assisting Israel in repelling a combination of more than 300 missiles and drones. A source from the Saudi royal family insinuated to KAN News that Saudi Arabia was involved in thwarting Iranian attack drones bound for Israel in the previous evening, citing that Saudi Arabian airspace automatically intercepts any suspicious entity, according to the post on the royal family's website, highlighted by the Jerusalem Post. Reminder, and I pointed this out when we looked at the map, many of the missiles were being launched from Yemen, down here, over Saudi Arabian territory, and I'm sure, with Jeddah being a major seaport and Riyadh being possibly in the line of flight from Yemen, that yes, Many of those were being intercepted for the fact that they were coming close to points of interest in Saudi Arabia, and yes, indeed, partially because of the fact that the Abraham Accords are in place. The Post then accused Iran of pushing Hamas to launch its attack on October 7th to derail efforts by Israeli and Saudi Arabia to normalize relations. The same figure takes a swing at Iran, accusing them of instigating a conflict in Gaza. This, they suggest, is a deliberate attempt to unravel the progress established towards normalizing relations with Israel. The Post continued, in the words of the official as put forth by Khan, Iran is a nation that endorses terrorism, and the world should have curtailed it much, much earlier. The barrage from Iran was among the largest in modern history, the Wall Street Journal reported, noting that when Russia invaded Ukraine, a country 20 times larger than Israel, it only fired up 200 missiles and drones. Well, and again, part of this was probably to unload the Iron Dome, just in case we are going to see something else come out of this. Saudi Arabia helping Israel go over like a fat in church. Yeah, we already know what it is that they launched over there. We can probably skip this one. 170 drones, 120 missiles, and 20 cruise missiles. Now we get into the political firestorm of all of this. News Channel 8 to start with. Trump blames Biden for Iran strike on Israel. It would not have happened if I was in office. Former President Trump on Saturday ripped into Biden over Iran's recent attack against Israel, arguing it would not have occurred if he was still in the Oval Office. I want to say, God bless the people of Israel. They're under attack right now. It's the worst. You can't have them under attack. Worst thing in the world, Trump said. On Saturday during a rally at Schnecksville, Pennsylvania. That's because we show great weakness. This would not happen. A great weakness. The worst weakness that we've shown is unbelievable. I can't even believe it. It would not have happened if I were in office. You know that. They know that. Everybody knows that. The rally was held shortly after Iran launched the attack of the drone and missile strikes on Israel on Saturday, sparking fears of a wider regional conflict in the Middle East. Israel later said that the vast majority of the Iranian missiles were intercepted outside of the country by the country's air defense system and the assistance of its allies, including U.S. forces. Trump on Saturday said America prays for Israel, telling the crowd, "We send our absolute support to everybody in harm's way. This is an attack that would not happen. I will revive America's strength abroad, and we will restore American strength at home, and we will make America great again." I've seen too many of those stupid speeches. I know how he operates. To an extent, I think he's right. I don't think they would have. And I like that idea. And I like the fact that the majority of the GOP has become anti-war. Our involvement, which has been hinted at in previous articles. US and UK shoot down 100 plus Iranian drones fired at Israel, according to a report from Ryan Saavedra at the Daily Wire. An Israeli defense official told local media that more than 100 drones launched by the Islamic Republic have been shot down before ever reaching Israeli airspace. The officials credited the US and the UK with shooting down the suicide drones, the Times of Israel reported. Yeah, Mogwai tends to disagree. I think we would still be here. I don't know if we would or not. A senior U.S. official told ABC News that the U.S. believes there could be up to 500 drones and missiles fired at Israel from Iraq, Syria, southern Lebanon, and Yemen. Which some of those would be closer than coming all the way from Yemen and Iran. I mean, some of them could start right from here. Or here. Israel's Iron Dome also shot down numerous incoming projectiles, according to various videos posted to social media. Gabriel Kolodro, who I don't know who that is, says, "Comincia el ataque iraní desde mi casa."
Se iba cayendo.
Why are we whispering? Not as exciting as I thought it would be. Emmanuel Manny Fabian says surreal footage of the Iranian attack over Jerusalem's Temple Mount / Haram al-Sharif. A video from Damascus showing how the Iranian suicide drones are being intercepted after being engaged by the Israeli air defense system. Air defenses active over Israel. Some more.
הקרבי של הטיל המאיים, אבל זה יכול להיות חלק מספיק גדול וכבד שיכול לייצר בסוף איזושהי תנועה וליפול בתוך שטחנו, ולכן צריך להיות ערניים.
התמונות האלה מעל...
לא יכול להישאר כשלם?
לא. התמונות האלה... אתה יכול לעזור לנו להגיד מה אנחנו רואים פה?
Does anybody know what they're saying? Midget, where are you? I need translation.
כן, אני אגיד לך מה אפשר לראות ב...
לא רואים יציאה של...
יש...
כן.
זאת הלהבה שאנחנו רואים מצד שמאל.
כן.
זה בשלב הטיפוס שלו לגובה. אי אפשר יהיה לראות את נקודת המפגש בין המיירט לבין המאיים.
I think a lot of this is just Shapiro wanting to brag about the Iron Dome system, honestly. Massive failure of Israeli and American deterrences. John Bolton on the Iranian strikes. Before we even watch the video, TLDR, John Bolton says we should destroy Iran and everything it stands for.
What we had tonight was a massive failure of Israeli and American deterrence, massive failure. a 200 ballistic missile, cruise missile drone failure. And I think, notwithstanding that there appears to be very little damage, fingers crossed until we get the final assessment. And thank God if the death toll is low or non-existent. And while we're at it, let's thank George W. Bush for getting out of the ABM Treaty of 1972, unleashing American missile defense capabilities. But once we see what the damage is, I think it's incumbent on Israel and the United States to reestablish deterrence in a major way. And I think that means, by definition, Israel's response, and there should be a response, should not be proportionate. It should be far stronger, because when deterrence fails, to reestablish it, you have to teach the adversary that any gain they may hope to get by any future attack will be more than outweighed by the damage that will be caused. So I hope President Biden isn't...
Well, I was just sorry for interrupting, but give us your assessment of an appropriate Israeli response to what Iran has now done.
Well, what Iran did tonight that I think was most significant was the firing of ballistic missiles and cruise missiles from its territory directly at Israel. Almost certainly at this point, none of those missiles contained a nuclear warhead. But you never can tell when the next firing, the next salvo of ballistic missiles might contain a nuclear warhead. So I think among the many targets Israel should consider, this is the opportunity to destroy Iran's nuclear weapons program. And I hope President Biden is not trying to dissuade Prime Minister Netanyahu from doing that. And if he succeeds, and if at some future point the Ayatollahs are able to pull off what former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon called a nuclear holocaust, history will know who to blame.
If Iran communicates...
Yeah, and if John Bolton had his way, the draft would already be in place, and we would already have troops stationed in Iraq ready to storm into Iran. Interesting thing to point out on that, especially with the architect of the post 9/11 attack and trying to keep us in Afghanistan forever. But there are people that have been pointing out that that would be a very, very effective pincer attack. Because while this region of the world is under Russian influence, Turkey is, quote, an ally of the U.S. via the UN and the EU. So for us to have influence in Afghanistan and Iraq, the two major countries that we took over under the W years and into the Obama years, means that we're in a massive position to pull a pincer attack on Iran. With not too many places for them to go afterwards. So something to keep in mind when people like John Bolton start flapping their mustaches. More Bolton. Biden is an embarrassment to the U.S. Israel must hit Iran now or attacks will get worse. Now in darkness, world stops turning. Ashes where the body's burning. From Daily Wire News. Former Trump National Security Advisor and current war walrus John Bolton slammed Biden over the weekend for encouraging Israel not to respond to Iran's attacks on Saturday, saying that he was an embarrassment to the United States. That's funny. I think that Shapiro echoed that exact same sentiment. Bolton made the remarks during a Sunday CNN interview after Iran launched its unprecedented attack on Israel that included 185 one-way suicide drones, 110 surface-to-surface missiles, and 36 cruise missiles. Our current count at that point is 331. Unless Iran sees a powerful response, that risk will continue, Bolton said, trying to mask his hard-on for going to war on the middle of CNN. And the way that we reestablish deterrence is not proportional. That's academic talk. The way you establish deterrence is by telling your adversary if you ever try that again, the price you will pay will be so much higher than any gain you think that you can get. You shouldn't even think about it. Yeah, just like Mogwai said, the Bolton shit scares the fuck out of me. And again, I will remind you, I made a list of things that I need to see from the Trump admin or the Trump campaign in order to vote for them, and one of them was the fact that you'll have your Nikki Haley. We need to figure out a way to keep MAGA going. Otherwise, it'll be a waste, because Trump will be termed out. And the next thing you know, we'll have another W, or John Bolton, or Nikki Haley, or Ron DeSantis, ready to come back in and take us right back to the GOP business as usual, the way that it was under W. And that's a hard fucking no for me. From the BBC, Israel, GPS disabled and IDF leave cancelled over Iran threat. GPS is being blocked across swaths of Israel in order to disrupt missiles and drones as tensions rise with Iran. Iran has vowed to respond after a strike on its consulate building on Syria on Monday, which Israel was widely believed to be behind, killed 13 people, including a senior general. IDF also announced it was halting all leave for soldiers serving with combat units. This is an older story, but a part of the reason that they're talking about it now is because, yes, we knew that this strike was coming, and we knew it was coming soon because not everybody waits 6.5 years like Biden does. The GPS jam, that's a nice touch because, I mean, yeah, you can't get around with your car and your soldiers can't run away, but also that does affect the ability for the missiles to come in and be useful in the area. And yes, if you're in an active situation, especially with Gaza right now, there shouldn't be any leave with the IDF. At least not yet. Let's see. John Bolton to Israel. Bomb them back to Persia. Mogwai singing that smell. Can't you smell that smell? The smell of death surrounds you. But that's more about drugs, though, than war. The Bush branch is coming back. Too much money in war. That's probably true, but I will not support them. You know how annoying that would be if you were door dashing in Jerusalem? That would be. I've never door dashed, but I've got DoorDash before. Let's grab one from the Associated Press. Israel says it will respond to Iran attack as world leaders urge restraint. Didn't we read this one already? No, because this has the world leaders involved. Rishi Sunak says all sides must show restraint to avoid a rising spiral of violence in the Middle East. Emmanuel Macron said Paris will try to convince Israel that we must not respond by escalating. But of course you understand that that's the default position for Macron and France because if you'll recall, the flag of France is white. Cooler heads on our side, surprisingly. U.S. to Israel. If you strike back at Iran, you'll do it alone. From Ann Flaherty. As Israel on Monday weighed its response to Iran's stunning attacks on the weekend, the U.S. is privately telling officials there if Israel strikes back militarily, you will do so alone. John Bolton is crying. It's an unusual message for a close ally that spent decades receiving more U.S. military aid than any other country in the world. And that's ABC telling you that, by the way. in whose relationship with America is often described as ironclad. But after months of Israel acting on its own in Gaza and facing tough criticism from the U.S. and other allies that its military operations have gone too far, the Biden admin made clear the U.S. would participate in an offensive military operations against Iran, fearing broader war in the Middle East. We believe Israel has freedom of action to protect itself and defend itself, a senior admin official told reporters shortly after Iran's attack ended. That's a long-standing policy and that remains. When asked by a reporter if the U.S. would help Israel counter its offensive military operations, the official said no. Taking the opposite stance is what they did in the Ukraine. That's an election year thing, though. At a time when most of your liberals still consider themselves to be anti-war, although many of them were able to twist themselves into pretzels to get behind the Ukraine. Or let the Ukraine get behind us. I don't know how that works. Mogwai, ask Lindsey Graham how that works. Biden hosts Iraqi leader after Iran's attack on Israel throws Mideast into greater uncertainty. From Matthew Lee and Qasim Abdul-Zahra. Biden on Monday hosted Iraq's leader at the White House as his admin worked to prevent escalation in the Mideast hostilities following Iran's weekend aerial assault on Israel. The Mogwai says, U.S. will stay out. I will believe a fat guy, probably me, going to McDonald's and swearing that he will eat healthy. Yeah, that sounds like something I would do. Biden hosted Iraq's leader at the White House as his admin worked to prevent an escalation in the Mideast hostilities following Iran's weekend aerial assault on Israel. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani was visiting for talks intended to focus primarily on U.S.-Iraq relations, which had been scheduled well before the Iranian strikes, but Saturday's drone and missile launches, including some that overflew Iraqi airspace and others that were launched from Iraq by Iran-backed groups, have underscored the delicate relationship between Washington and Baghdad. The sharp increase in regional tensions over Israel's war in Gaza and the weekend developments have raised further questions about the viability of the two-decade American military presence in Iraq. However, a U.S. Patriot battery in Erbil, Iraq, did shoot down at least one Iranian ballistic missile, according to American officials. One of dozens of missiles and drones destroyed by the U.S. forces alongside Israeli efforts to defeat the attack. Yeah, they're pointing out the fact that Iraq was involved in this, not by government, but... And I would have to ask Mr. Zed about this more, but I believe a lot of this is just open land out here where dissident groups or Iranian groups could come out in and gather. I mean, there's the one major highway, looks like Highway 1, that runs out here in a couple backwater cities, some of which don't appear to even have roads that get to them, but we've got one major highway that goes into Jordan and one that splits off and goes into Syria. Our partnership is pivotal for our nations, the Middle East, and the world, Biden told al-Sudani as the Iraqi leader noted discussions come at a sensitive time. And I'm sure that this was planned long before Iran decided to get a big dick and start throwing missiles. But it's still, I mean, it's tenuous too, and we'll see what happens with it and where it goes. Look at the horse on the map. I wonder what its name is. Which horse? Which horse on the map? Are you thinking, fuck you and the horse you rode in on? No idea. Now the taxpayer side of things. Congress grapples with foreign aid after Iran attack on Israel. An Iranian attack on Israel has put new momentum behind a stalled congressional effort to pass billions of dollars in foreign aid to a pair of key U.S. allies. That's right. It's coming out of your pocketbook. Pay your taxes. Millions of people in Israel depend on you after months of delay. House Republicans said Monday they will take a different approach to get the issue across the finish line, put funding for Ukraine, Israel, and Indo-Pacific allies up for a vote on their own. Plus a fourth bill that would include several other unrelated GOP foreign policy priorities. Those include provisions to seize Russian assets to distribute them to Ukraine, and to force TikTok's Chinese parent company to sell it or face a practical ban in the United States. No. Wrong. That's bad. As much as I don't care about TikTok because I don't use it, I know that is a nice, big, easy way to lose elections. For something that most TikTokers don't really have to worry about. Go in, tell government officials they can't put it on their phones, their government-provided phones, and call it a day, and go eat a Hot Pocket. Whatever passes in the House will be sent to the Senate to grapple with, and where it's uncertain if the measures can find the votes to become law. If it can pass the House, it can pass the Senate. There are enough Bush-aligned people in the Senate that there is no worry of it getting past the Senate as long as it can get there. One thing is clear, the drone and missile attack has been met with an outpouring of messages of support for Israel from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Yeah, but again, I don't care about the messages of support. I have a message of support for Israel. Hang in there. You'll get your turn one day. But I'm going to keep my own money, thank you. The new four-bill approach discussed in a closed-door meeting of House Republicans at the U.S. Capitol on Monday afternoon in the wake of that attack allows the conference's fractured membership to vote in favor of funding for Israel without simultaneously approving funding for the Ukraine. Now, here's my question, and again, I do not support spending any money on any of this war, period, because it's not our war, but here is my big concern. Why do you have to come and do that now? This is something I've been asking about since I started getting into politics. Let's have a single line bill with no pork. Hey, you want to fund a project? Okay, write a bill for it. Tell us what it's going to cost, and have that and only that in the bill. They're supported until the retaliation. Well, we'll see, because again, they're on the high ground again. I don't know how long that will be and how many civilians they'll mow through before they come off the high ground, but they are currently on the high ground again, as far as morality. Speaker Johnson to advance separate Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan bills. We'll skip that one because that's the same as the last one. But yes, I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of money spent on the taxpayer dime. BBC with an interesting take on this one. Oil prices lower after an Iran attack on Israel, but that is probably not going to last for long. From Michael Race, Peter Hoskins, and Nick Edser. Oil prices fell on Monday after Iran's reprisal attack on Israel over the weekend. Brent crude was lower still, but trading close to $90 a barrel. Prices had already risen in expectation of an action by Iran, with Brent crude nearing a 6-month high last week. Analysts said the markets would be looking at how the conflict could affect global supply chains. Oil price fluctuations can cause ripple effects across the world. Wow, I can talk perfectly tonight. Due to countries heavily reliant on the commodity, which has been used to produce fuels such as petrol and diesel. Fuel and energy have been a major driver behind these higher costs of living worldwide in the past couple of years. Analysts said Israel's reaction to the attack would be a key for global markets in the days and the weeks ahead. At the end of last week, the price of Brent crude touched $92.18 a barrel, the highest since October, but on Monday it fell back to around $89.50. I anticipate it goes up, even without having to wait to see what Israel does. We're in a situation where one of the major oil producers is sitting waiting for an attack, and the attack could come on to one of their big commodities, although I'm sure Israel would rather go to the uranium refineries than the oil refineries. But all the attacks have to go over Saudi Arabia as well, which is the big leader in oil production in this part of the world, and in possibly the entire world. All I know is I'm going to go fuel my truck up now. Well, not now, because I'm reading the news to you guys. But I will be very shortly in the near future. I got one more on this topic here. Two more technically, but one thing. And then we'll actually talk about, again, what should have been the big news of the week. Free Palestine protesters block parts of I-880 in Oakland on the Golden Gate Bridge, from Amanda Quintana and the KTVU staff. Free Palestine protesters on Monday blocked several sections of the freeway around the Bay Area, including a section of I-880 in Oakland and the Golden Gate Bridge right at the peak of morning commute. Traffic was snarled for hours after the demonstration took over in the northbound lanes of Highway 880 at 5th and Embarcadero in Oakland early in the morning in both directions of the Golden Gate Bridge. The entrance to part of Oakland was impeded later in the morning as another pack of protesters, who said they came from a group called A15 Action. The California Highway Patrol, or CHIPS, said the Oakland protest began around 6:30 a.m. and the Golden Gate Bridge protest started an hour after the first 880 takeover. The bridge reopened after noon. There's a genocide going on across the world and people have to be informed about it, whether it's going to work or on social media. One protester shouted, "People need to stay informed of what's going on. Babies are dying." Yeah, they know. The Mogwai says, "You never hear about that in the South. A lifted truck goes right over protesters." Disavow. Dozens of CHIPS officers were seen in riot gear watching as Oakland protesters waved red flags near where they had painted the colors of Palestine on the highway center median. Officers said the protesters used 55-gallon drums filled with concrete and attached themselves to them with chains, impeding officers' efforts to remove them. 7 people were arrested. Okay, have you seen these protesters, by the way? There are times that I wonder if these things are not planned by government officials, because if you've ever seen the people who are committing these protests over and over again, you'll notice one thing over and over again. They're either 300 pounds of absolutely no muscle mass whatsoever, or they're about 6 foot. Well, no, they're not 6'2". There's too much soy in their diet. They're about 5'8" and 75 pounds soaking wet. I was going for a tall and lean joke, but I remember that they don't get that tall. Yeah, they're about 5'8" and 75 pounds. How are they? I understand they can probably get 5 or 6 of them to go and tip the barrel over and roll it out there with the concrete in it. How are they getting the damn thing back up? Serious question. How are they getting those things back up? It's like most of the things that they have to do while they're trying to come out and do these protests. Or in the majority of their lives when they can't get it up. They have been arrested. 38 are arrested after a shutdown of Golden Gate Bridge and I-880. The Chips said that 38 people were arrested and face a variety of charges, including unlawful assembly, refusal to comply with a lawful order, unlawful stop on a bridge, resisting arrest, false imprisonment, and conspiracy. Yeah, that false imprisonment one, that's a fun one, because if you're impeding somebody's motion on a bridge and there are a couple thousand people behind them because it's fucking California, then yeah, that would be false imprisonment. The beads used work in a pulley system. That's disturbing. So, yeah, they're morons. Yeah, who lifts these barrels back up? Seriously. There's not a Chad among them. But that is our Israeli news for the day. Now, for what would have been the top news story on literally any other day. From ABC News, Trump hush money trial, day one wraps with dozens of jurors dismissed. From Aaron Katersky, Peter Charalambous, Lucian Brueggemann, and Olivia Rubin. All right. Former President Trump is on trial in New York City, where he's facing felony charges related to a 2016 hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. It marks the first time in history a former U.S. president has been tried on criminal charges. Jury selection could take up to 2 weeks, but with the entire trial expected to last between 6 and 8 weeks, I think it's going to take longer than 2 weeks, dude. Trump vows to continue his fight against the judge. Former President Trump vowed to continue his effort to have the judge overseeing the case removed, which he should be. There's a conflict of interest there. Excuse me. As he exited the courtroom after a lengthy trial delay. Give me 1 second. Got a little breath of spittle in the back of the throat, and, well, let's just say I have a gag reflex. We're going to continue our fight against this judge, acknowledging he's having a hard time with the New York state system. Yeah, it's kind of interesting when a system has unlimited money to go after you, because they can just bilk more out of the taxpayer. So we do have some. Day ends with, this is today at 4:50 p.m. 7 jurors selected, 11 more to go. After seating the 7th juror in the case, Judge Juan Merchan reiterated his hope that the opening statements could commence on Monday if the remaining jurors are selected by then. Until then, put the case out of your mind, Merchan told the 7th juror. Don't think about it, don't talk about it. The judge then concluded that the proceedings for the day court will be in recess on Wednesday, and the jury selection will resume on Thursday with a fresh batch of 96 prospective jurors. So we are at 7 right now. But I gotta ask the question of how do you get even 12 jurors out there? How do you get 12 people that can't be biased in a case like this? That has been pummeled and pumped into their brains since 2015. You're supposed to be outraged by this. You're supposed to hate this. How can you be unbiased in something like this? Lindsey Graham says it can help you get rid of that gag problem. Gross. Alright, let's look into some of the in-depth stuff and not the headlines. From CNN, takeaways from the first day of the Trump hush money trial. From Jeremy Herb, Kara Scannell, and Kanita Liar. The first criminal trial of former President Trump is here. The opening day of the first criminal trial of the former U.S. president began on Monday, hitting home the reality that the presumptive Republican nominee for president will be sitting in a Manhattan courtroom as the defendant 4 days a week. Taking him off the campaign trail, of course. Choosing a roster of 12 jurors who can decide Trump's fate will be difficult, as more than 50 people immediately were dismissed when they said they couldn't be fair or impartial. Trump did little talking inside the courtroom on Monday, which is probably good, but his incendiary rhetoric was once again at issue with a new call from the Manhattan DA for Judge Mercan to sanction Trump for violating the judge's gag order. Well, I'm telling you right now, you could probably just get him off the case, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. More than half the first batch of prospective jurors say they can't be fair or impartial. Defense wants to slow things down. After months of appeals to delay the start of the trial, the defense is now looking to slow down the legal proceedings as the November elections near. Sources told Paula Reed there will be likely many objections and sidebars during the trial because the defense is completely focused on preserving every issue for appeal. Which is not a bad thing, because this trial is not going to be a fair and impartial trial. Because every one of these charges would have been a misdemeanor in any other situation. Jury selection is already expected to last a week, but on Monday, Trump attorney Todd Blanche requested more time to question potential jurors. Blanche asked for 30 minutes for the first round of questions and 20 minutes for subsequent rounds, double the usual time, and the judge in the DA's office agreed. Blanche also attempted to raise problems with the current system of requiring a pre-motion letter 48 hours before filing motions, which Merchan said is in place because we were being absolutely inundated with motions, many of which were close to frivolous, if not frivolous, an apparent dig at recent motions filed by Trump attorneys. Well, this whole trial is frivolous, but take that for what it is. These tactics fit the larger Trump legal strategy, which included months of appeals to delay the start of the trial, which was successful on separate grounds. The defense now hopes legal proceedings, which are expected to last 6 to 8 weeks, move at a slow pace with the 2024 election just months away. DA's office accuses Trump of violating gag order, wants him fined $3,000. Do it. Yes, make every motion to make it look like you're persecuting the defendant. Yes, do that. Access Hollywood tape can't be played, but actress can testify. Merchan made several key rulings that may frame how the case is presented, delivering wins for both sides. Aside from refusing to recuse himself from the case, which he needs to, the judge sided with the prosecutors in allowing Karen McDougal, an actress and model who alleges she had an affair with Trump, to testify. Prosecutors can also introduce the National Enquirer stories slamming Trump's opponents as evidence. American Media Incorporated agreed to pay McDougal $150,000 5 months before the election for her silence and allegations of an affair with Trump. A key victory for Trump, meanwhile, was Merchan ruling that the infamous Access Hollywood tape can't be played in court, partially because it has absolutely nothing to do with the trial. Saying it was prejudicial, prosecutors also will not be allowed to bring up other sexual assault allegations against Trump that surfaced after the Access Hollywood tape was made public in October of 2016. That's right, because once again, even as an accusation, even if it were to be 100% true, what is on trial right now is a completely consensual sexual act. from both parties. Merchant also denied prosecutors' request to show E. Jean Carroll's deposition from her defamation case against Trump because it would be building a trial into a trial. Yes, exactly. Alvin Bragg would love to go back and persecute Trump for rape on a completely separate trial, but there's no grounds for him to do that, because the statute of limitations is up. And once again, the act that's on trial is a payment to cover up a completely consensual sexual act. And that is under the assumption that it happened, which I don't believe so. But even Clifford has said, or McDougal rather, has said, oh yeah, no, I wanted to do this. So that's your takeaways from that. We also have a motion for contempt from Politico. 9 potentials cleared an initial round of vetting on Monday as the first ever criminal trial of a former president kicked off in a Manhattan courtroom. But before jury selection could even begin on Monday, the start of the historic trial was waylaid for hours by a decidedly unhistoric and familiar phenomenon: the former president's angry social media tirade against the prosecution's star witness, Michael Cohen. Trump used Truth Social over the weekend to suggest that Cohen should be prosecuted for lying, which he should. Cohen was famously prosecuted for lying under oath during the previous proceedings, has been a target of Trump's disdain for years, but last month, Trump's judge in the hush money case, Judge Juan Merchan, issued a gag order that barred Trump from commenting on reasonably foreseeable witnesses concerning their potential participation in this criminal proceeding. Cohen is expected to testify Trump orchestrated a scheme to pay off the porn star in the final weeks of the 2016 presidential campaign in order to prevent her from disclosing her claim that she had a sexual encounter with Trump while she was married. Which, again, everybody knows who this guy is, and he cheated on every wife that he had while they were pregnant. Why are you trying to shut this one up? Trump's latest attack, as well as the broader vitriol against Cohen, became a focus of the first few hours of the trial, delaying the arduous process of selecting a jury for the most of the day. Prosecutors asked Merchan to hold Trump in contempt and fine him $3,000. They also asked for permission to use the attacks as evidence in the trial itself if Trump seeks to discredit Cohen's testimony, which Cohen has already discredited. If your star witness is Michael Cohen, just go up to the judge and say, okay, we forfeit. Trump wasn't cowed by prosecutors' move to hold him in contempt. During the trial's lunch break, he posted a video of one of his prominent allies, Laura Loomer, making various pro-Trump statements through a bullhorn, including criticisms of Cohen in the video. Loomer criticized Merchan's wife 2 weeks ago. Merchan expanded his gag order to prohibit Trump from commenting on the judge's family members. Because, again, a reminder that the judge's daughter is a higher up in a Kamala Harris pack. From Newsweek, Trump glares at reporter who exposed him sleeping during the trial. Ooh, a glare. From Gabe Wisnet. During the first day of the trial, former President Trump apparently glared at reporter Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, a former newspaper, after she wrote that he appeared to be sleeping in court. Per the press room report, jurors left the courtroom during an afternoon break on Monday. Trump stared at Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and then turned his eyes to the press pool, then glared at Haberman for several seconds as he walked out. It was probably nothing. and Haberman is looking for an extra 5 minutes of fame off of this. I mean, when I see something like this at Newsweek, this is grasping at straws. And everybody knows it. We went over this. Went over this. Yeah, I don't know where you're going to come up with 12 jurors and 6 alternates at this point who know nothing about this. I would honestly question how unbiased the 7 that they already have are, honestly, or how they were able to manipulate their way through. We're in a situation where the person who's on trial right now has been in the public eye since the 80s. Everybody's formed an opinion of this guy even before he ran for politics. Many of them changed their opinion of him when he ran for politics. And our news cycle has been in a non-stop obsession with Trump since he came down the escalator. You can't open up a magazine without something saying Donald Trump in it. Since he came down the escalator. Where are you going to find 12 unbiased jurors? Anywhere. And I'm not even saying just in New York. If he gets a venue change and it goes out to Wyoming, where are you going to find 12 unbiased jurors out in Wyoming instead of 12 people who are just going to clamor over themselves to get on the jury so they can say, not guilty, acquit? I don't think it's possible. Again, I'm dead surprised they got the 7. And there's anybody out there that they could pick that could come into this trial without a preconceived notion. And I'm not just talking from a Manhattan jury pool. Anywhere in this country at this point. Trump has an unusual request on trial day 1. On his way into court, former President Trump said the entire trial is an assault on America and used social media posts to criticize potential witnesses. A separate hearing is now being scheduled for April 23rd to determine if Trump violated a gag order. But here is the unusual request. Trump wants to take part in sidebars, which could put him very close to jurors. According to Scannell, defendants rarely get involved in sidebars with judges during jury selection. But Trump's attorneys have indicated he will want to be involved either approaching the bench or in a side room. That's a rare request. I've covered about 24 trials, and I can't remember one time that the defendant opted to go up to the bench as the judge and the attorneys are asking questions of the potential juror, Scannell said on CNN during a midday courtroom break. So, this is really remarkable to me that he's choosing to do that. And he will be eye to eye with those potential jurors in close proximity as they answer questions. Yeah, I'm not a huge one. I don't know what the angle is for this. Unless, of course, there is going to be some sort of intimidation. I don't know. I know what the liberal media is going to come out and say, that he's trying to intimidate jurors. He's trying to poison the jury well. But I feel like there's got to be something else for this one. I don't know. I don't believe it was granted either. I got one more on this, and then we've actually got to run to the other side of the aisle for that one. ALX reporting. Breaking, Trump speaks out after Merchant informed him he could not attend his son Barron's high school graduation, or he will be jailed.
So thank you very much. We had some Amazing things happened today. As you know, my son is graduating from high school, and it looks like the judge will not let me go to the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student, and he's very proud of the fact that he did so well. And I was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judges are going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial. If you read all of the legal pundits, all of the legal scholars today, there's not one that I see that said this is a case that should be brought or tried. It's a scam. It's a political witch hunt. It continues, and it continues forever. And we're not going to be given a fair trial. It's a very, very sad thing. In addition, as you know, next Thursday, we're before the United States Supreme Court on a very big hearing on immunity. And this is something that we've been waiting for a long time. And the judge, of course, is not going to allow us. He's a very conflicted judge, and he's not going to allow us to go to that. He won't allow me to leave here for a half a day, go to D.C. and go before the United States Supreme Court because he thinks he's superior, I guess, to the Supreme Court. We got a real problem with this judge. We have a real problem with a lot of things having to do with this trial, including the DA, because you go right outside and people are being mugged and killed all day long, and he's sitting here all day with about 10 or 12 prosecutors over nothing, over what people say shouldn't be a trial. So I just want to thank you very much, but that I can't go to my son's graduation, or that I can't go to the United States Supreme Court, that I'm not in Georgia or Florida or North Carolina campaigning like I should be. It's perfect for the radical left Democrats. That's exactly what they want. This is about election interference. That's all it's about. Thank you very much.
I mean, there's a point. He's got a point with that. And our friends on the left will come back and argue the fact that people who aren't former presidents or billionaires would not be allowed to do the same thing. But again, this is a trial that shouldn't have even been brought forward to begin with. And this will likely be what we are talking about most of next week. Well, a little bit of a funny one, though, for you guys here, because you know how we heard forever and ever and ever, amen, that Donald Trump is scamming his followers to have them pay his legal bills, and he's going to have the RNC pay his legal bills, and it's the most evil thing in the world, and why would you give money to the RNC? It's just going to go to Trump's legal bills. From ABC News, DNC uses political donations to pay Biden's legal fees from a special counsel Robert Hur's investigation. This would be the end of the world if this was going the other direction. I hate to do a, can you imagine if the shoe was on the other foot kind of thing? But this would be the end of the world. Not even just if Trump did it. I mean, it would be 7 Armageddons in one if Trump did it. But if any Republican did something like this, this would be the end of the world. There would be calls to shut down the RNC. If we did this in the other direction. From Soo Rin Kim, Isabel Murray, and Lucien Brueggemann. And by the way, I'm okay with campaigns and political PACs using these kinds of things for legal fees for their people. I'm okay with the DNC doing this for Biden. For whatever stupid reason, he is their figurehead. Just like I'm okay with the RNC doing it for Trump. Because for whatever stupid reason, he is their figurehead. But the problem again I have is the fact with ABC News coming out here and saying, oh yeah, he did it and it's just fine. Whereas you know this would be a front page, blood red lettered headline of evil Donald Trump is taking his gullible followers' money to go pay his legal fees. The DNC has been paying has been paying Joe Biden's legal fees incurred in connection with the special counsel Robert Hur's investigation into his handling of classified documents. According to sources and disclosures of expenditures filed by the party committee. Mogwai says, who's graduating? Oh, I don't know him at all. He is my child. He's the greatest child. Smartest on top of his class. He's been on top of his class in China. They said the same thing during the Clinton administration. Since last year, the party committee has paid the law firm of Bob Bauer, the lead attorney representing Biden in Hur's investigation, with more than $1 million, roughly $150,000 a month. From July 2023 through February 2024. The party committee's most recent disclosures show. Axios was the first to report on the DNC's legal spending on behalf of Biden, which blows my fucking mind, by the way. Axios is fully in the tank for the neoliberal machine. The DNC, since last year, has also roughly paid $905,000 to Hemingway and Barnes, the law firm of Jennifer Miller, who is named as one of the attorneys that had represented Biden in the special counsel probe disclosure filings show. Again, this should not be a story. The DNC and the RNC are private corporations, and they should be able to spend their money however they feel. And if defending their figureheads is how they feel to do so, that is fine. As long as they have a full disclosure to the people who are donating to them that this is what we are going to be using your money for. Then this should not be a story. There is no reason for this to be a story. But you know as well as I do that this would be the end of the world if this went the other way. Alright, crime and punishment. From ABC 7 Eyewitness News, Family ID's 9-year-old girl killed in back of the yards shooting. 3 children among 10 others shot. We had a mass shooting in Chicago. But it's black on black, so it's not going to go very far. Christian Picos, Michelle Gallardo, and Mark Hawash. A child is dead and 10 other people are injured after a mass shooting at a family gathering in the city's south side on Saturday night. The shooting happened at about 9:18 p.m. near 52nd Street and South Damon, in the back of the yards neighborhood, Chicago police said. Officers responded to a shot spotter alert for 18 gunshot rounds and the location. Police said they found multiple people shot and started performing life-saving measures on the victims. A witness said they saw a black sedan approach the area and someone unknown started shooting in the crowd before fleeing southbound on Damon Avenue, Chicago police in a live update said on Sunday. Police said the shooting was likely a targeted act of violence. The victims included 7 adults and 4 children. Police said a girl was shot in her head. She was taken to the hospital where she later died. The girl's father, Jose Molina, identified her as 9-year-old Ariana Molina, and yet there will never be calls to say her name. There were never calls to say Secoria Turner's name. They had some big assault rifles, I guess, because it was too many shots. They shot my daughter in the head, my wife in the back, me in the leg, my 2 nephews, and a couple more family members, Jose Molina said. Gang violence. The adult victims included 2 men, ages 36 and 38, and 5 women, ages 19, 26, 30, 36, and 40. 3 boys were injured, ages 1, 8, and 9. F in the chat. So, it's a tragedy, but unless it was done by a white kid with an AR-15, among other white kids, you don't hear anything else about it. Allowed to be outraged today. Mayor issues statement after a girl 8 killed in a mass shooting. From B. Win. After a mass shooting at a confirmation party. Go the fuck away. Are you serious? Really? Come on. I hate everything. I really do at this point. That thing sounds like an aircraft carrier going off. Holy crap. I guess I forget how loud that actually is because I never sit here without my headphones on. But seriously, come on. Mayor Brandon Johnson outlined a series of steps being taken to help the community heal from the tragedy. In a statement released on Sunday afternoon, Johnson said in part that he was praying for Ariana, her community, and loved ones as they experienced the unimaginable pain of losing a child. This heinous and cowardly act of wanton violence that your policies have allowed in the city leaves our city mourning children is beyond reprehensible and has no place in our communities, he added. We're all allowed to be outraged today. A warm and spring day, I'm sure this child will be playing and enjoying with family. Mayor Johnson, once again, your soft on crime policies and everything else you have done in the city would have led to this. So I will take a page from the Anti-Gunners book and say what they say every time it is a white kid with an AR-15. You can take your thoughts and prayers and shove them right up your ass. And a brief one from the other side of the world. Police in Australia identified the Sydney stabbing attacker who killed 6 people. Yeah, we had a person of the tribe go into a shopping mall and start stabbing people wantonly over the weekend. Rick Rycroft and Kieran Smith, police identified Sunday the assailant who stabbed and killed 6 people at a busy Sydney shopping center before a police officer fatally shot him. New South Wales Police Chief said that Joel Cauchi, 40, was responsible for Saturday afternoon attack at the Westfield Shopping Center in Bondi Junction in the city's eastern suburbs and not far from the world-famous Bondi Beach, which I'd never heard of before this. NSW Assistant Police Commissioner Anthony Cook told reporters at a media conference that Cauchi suffered from yet unspecified mental health issues, and police investigators weren't treating the attack as terrorism related, even though they were in the beginning when they thought it was a Muslim who made the attack. We're continuing to work through the profiling of the offender, but very clearly to us at this stage, it would appear that this is related to the mental health of the individual involved, Cook said. Which is the first time a left-wing government official has ever said that. Usually it's the guns or the knives. There's still, to this point, no information we have received, no evidence we have recovered, no intelligence that we have gathered that would suggest this was driven by any particular motivation, ideology, or otherwise, he added. Yeah, that's code for they know what caused this and they don't want to tell you. Sydney Mall attacker may have targeted women, police say, as more details emerge of his 6 victims. From Helen Regan and Sandy Sidhu. Teal Rebane, Dhruv Tikekar. Australian police said Monday that the attacker who fatally stabbed 6 people at a busy shopping mall in Sydney's beach suburb of Bondi may have been targeting women, as heartbreaking details emerge of those who lost their lives, plunging the nation into mourning. 5 of the 6 were women when he rampaged through Bondi Junction's busy Westfield shopping center on Saturday, turning the weekend fall afternoon into a scene of panic and terror. 12 others were injured in the rare attack, including a 9-month-old baby whose mother was killed. 8 people remained in the hospital Monday in conditions ranging from critical to stable, with 4 discharged in the past 24 hours, according to New South Wales Minister of Health, Ryan Park. New South Wales Police Commissioner Karen Webb told ABC's Breakfast News Monday that while police do not yet know the attacker's motivation, the fact he appeared to target women certainly is a line of inquiry for us. The videos of the attack speak for themselves, don't they? Webb said. It's obvious to me, it's obvious the detectives that he seems to be an area of interest, that the offender had focused on women and avoided the men. But again, nothing that we can turn around and blame on the religion of peace. Except the next day, from CNN again, stabbing a bishop at Sydney Church is a terrorist act, police said. From Christian Edwards, Paul Devitt, and Xiaofei Zhu. A bishop and a priest. And no, this does not start with a bishop and a priest walked into a bar. A bishop and a priest were stabbed in an alleged terrorist act at a Sydney church that sparked a riot on Monday, police said, just 2 days after the Australian city was rocked by a mass stabbing in a busy shopping mall. Bishop Mari Emanuel was presiding over a service that was being live-streamed at the Christ the Good Shepherd Church in the western suburb of Wakeley, when an alleged attacker was seen charging towards him. Several parishioners immediately attempted to intervene while screams could be heard in the church. And this one was the religion of peace. How brazen do you have to be where you just walk up through the middle of the aisles, past everybody with a knife, and stab the guy giving the service in front of everybody? Mogwa says, I honestly can't wrap my head around how mass stabbings happen. Charles, I think you were stabbed. Yes, mate, you're bleeding. You want another Foster's? Yeah, they took a stab at it. A 53-year-old man received cuts to his head, and a 39-year-old man who was injured after attempting to intervene suffered cuts and shoulder wounds, police said. Both were treated by paramedics and taken to the hospital. In a statement, Christ the Good Shepherd Church said Bishop Emanuel suffered several blows to the head and body. Parish priest Father Isaac Royal also was injured, but no one else inside the church was harmed, it said. Video of the attack spread quickly on social media, prompting angry members of the community to converge on the church, police said. Footage showed chaotic scenes as people threw objects at police cars. So, no motive released, of course, but we have the religion of peace involved, so we may never get a motive on this one. An article from the Post-Millennial, a post from there, rather. And I think we are going to call it after this, unfortunately. And again, I cannot do a stream on Saturday. So we'll call it at this one, and we'll do things I like and things that I hate and head out of here. But the Post-Millennial, Riddhi Patel breaks down in the court after receiving 16 felony charges, including terrorism, for threatening to murder a California City Council member. after they didn't call for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war.
A deputy public defender entered not guilty pleas on Patel's behalf to 8 counts of threatening a public official and 10 counts of making terroristic threats. She's due back in.
Let's see what it is that she did that the rest of us would also be prosecuted for, but typically leftoids don't get prosecuted for. From the New York Post. Anti-Israel protester sobs during arraignment after murder you remark to California Mayor City Council. Yeah, they don't take too kindly to it when you threaten left-wing politicians. Even if you yourself are further to the left than that politician. You go to prison for that. From Stephen Sorace and Gabriel Hayes. Now, if you do it to a Democrat politician, you don't. An anti-Israel protester was wept as a judge arraigned her in California on Friday after she allegedly threatened to murder public officials at a city council meeting. Riddhi Patel sobbed as she pleaded not guilty to 18 felony counts after she directed comments to Bakersfield city council members and Republican Mayor Karen Goh for not backing a Gaza ceasefire resolution against Israel and for installing metal detectors at a city hall. Patel was ordered to be held on $1 million bail and stay at least 500 yards away from City Hall. Patel was seen on video during the public comment section of the City Council meeting on Wednesday, claiming she hoped oppressed minorities would guillotine city government members, declaring that even Jesus Christ would kill them, and threatening to go to their houses and murder them. Yeah, see, you can't do that. The activists accused the council members of not caring about the oppression of Palestinians or people anywhere else in the world, and later expressed hope that the Global South rise up and execute them. Yeah, see, you can't do that. And I can't go any further than that on YouTube or Twitch, but you can't do that. Because the people you're making the threats to have the power to retaliate against you. With an unlimited supply of taxpayer money, I might add. You can't do that. And it's only personal interest that they're ordering $1 million bail for somebody who isn't even a flight risk. I'm sure that wasn't politically motivated. All right. And unfortunately, we've got to call it there. Might do something on a Saturday, but again, I cannot do anything this coming Thursday. I do have something else going on that day. But we're going to finish, as we always do, with the rules of acquisition, and a couple things that I like, and a few things that I hate, and one of them that kind of crosses in the middle. Our rules of acquisition for the week. The Ferengi rules of acquisition represent the rules and commandments of their religion. The people keeping these rules more perfectly as they go are able to obtain a social credit that they take into the afterlife to bid in the divine treasury for their new life. Every week, we go over one of these rules of acquisition, determine if it can be used in real life, as we are good capitalists here and contemporary, and see a bit about how it's used in canon and the show. Alright. So the last time we finished off on the 291st rule of acquisition, and now we move on to the 292nd rule of acquisition. Pay attention to the song that's going over here because we're going to be going into that game pretty soon. But not right away because I've got to do some technological updates first. The 292nd rule of acquisition. Only a fool passes up a business opportunity. This is from Elite Force 2, which was, I believe, a DS9 episode. Let's check on this here quick and we'll back up. No, that was a video game. I'm sorry. It's a sequel to the computer game Elite Forces for Star Trek. So this, I believe, is a relatively recent one, too. Oh, no, it's not. Published 2003. I'm sorry. Looked like I maybe saw Discovery. Oh, that was the mission name, not the show that they were taken from. So this is a 2003 video game put out by, it looks like, Activision at the time. Was who provided this one here. But let's talk about what it means. Only a fool passes up a business opportunity. If you got the opportunity, you know you can make money off of it. There's always going to be a risk involved. But if you know it's there, and you still come out and say, no, I think I'm going to go play video games instead. That's a foolish thing to do, especially if you're a good capitalist and you have the ability to do so. Now, if you pass it up because you don't think you can make money off of it, or you would live beyond your means to do so, then that's not a foolish thing to do. But it's really not an opportunity at that point, it's a liability as well. So, this might be worded a little bit wrong, but the idea is in the right place for that. Only a fool does pass up a business opportunity, to an addendum that I would add if you know that you can make money off of it. That is our 292nd rule of acquisition. There are only 4 left, and by popular demand from our friend Dual Helix, we will be starting over after we finish these last 4. But for now, let's do a couple things that I like and a few things that I hate. Thing that I like, of course, the media that I've been consuming. I recently purchased a Switch. And I've already plugged a new game in, which was the first one to arrive, because I bought them all online. But I got the physical copies. I didn't just go right to the Nintendo store to get them, because I got some of them used. Oops, didn't say that out loud. And the first one that I've played, of course, is Breath of the Wild. The reason that a lot of people got a Switch in the first place, because the Mario entries kind of sucked, at the beginning at least, until they got Mario Maker and the Mario Brothers entries, at least. Although I am probably going to play Odyssey at some point, because I like the music on it. But Breath of the Wild, the newest entry into Legend of Zelda, well, not the newest one because they've got a sequel to that one now, but a new generation far, far after the events of the other Legends of Zelda. It's been enjoyable so far, and I kind of like the way that they handled the, number one, the new technology for it, the tablet aspect of the Switch in the story, and some of the more open world elements to it. It feels a bit more like a Fallout game to me than a Legend of Zelda game, which I appreciate a lot. It'd be a little bit more like playing Skyrim, and I like that idea. So let's watch the trailer for Breath of the Wild.
The history of the royal family of Hyrule is also the history of the Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages.
Tells me that you have no recollection of me, however.
I think you are now ready to hear what happened 100 years ago.
Everything I've done up until now, it was all for nothing.
Here it comes!
You must save her, my daughter.
Definitely enjoyable for the Force 40. Oh, trailer's not done yet. So definitely enjoyable for the first 40 minutes that I've been into it. Again, the more open world aspect is something that I very much appreciate. This is going to be something, and I have, because again, it's for me to be able to use something I paid for, number one. That's the first game that I picked up for it. I did get 2 more in today. But there is also a 50-50 chance that I wait on this one for a stream, because I've got some other ones I want to play for this. But, I mean, we can stream anytime that we want, and I'm very appreciative of the idea. So it might be a wait for stream, but I might just play it in the background as well, because it's already fun, and I can see where it's going to become more fun, especially hearing the reviews that went along with it as well. Let's do a couple of the things that I like. This gentleman made the rounds this week. Natalie Danelishin was the one who brought up the idea, or put the X up rather. If you care about your country, read Mises and the 6 Lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers. Which, admittedly, I have not, but it's something that I'd be willing to do, and I do like the principles that the Mises Caucus has brought forward. Let's listen.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry a non-fucking guns. I love property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your fucking country, I'll read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 Lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
And that's a Moicano, ladies and gentlemen.
I love America. I love the Constitution.
I love America, and I love the Constitution as well. Elvie Simmons joining us over on the Rumble side, telling me that not many people believe anything said about Trump anymore. That is absolutely true. But we will see what happens when the trial comes forward. I don't know if you just sent that message now or if you sent that earlier. I didn't see it rolling earlier. I was looking for it. But thank you for joining. If you enjoy what you see, do come in and join us for more. Absolutely. I might have to go back and read Mises at some point here. I don't know when, because I'm either doing this or working all the time, but I've been convinced at least. One coming out of my state, which I know the Wisconsin State GOP can fuck up at a moment's notice, because it's the Wisconsin GOP. And they are very, very, very good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. But Wisconsin Supreme Court Justice to retire, putting liberal majority at stake next year. Now, this is not going to come in until after the major presidential election, which means that it will not be used to drive voter turnout at this point, which I appreciate, especially coming from a left-wing judge. Let's read about Ann Walsh Bradley. Adam Edelman reporting for NPC News. The Wisconsin Supreme Court, Justice Ann Walsh Bradley, D. Madison, announced Thursday she would step down at the end of her term next spring, putting Liberals' majority on the pivotal swing state's highest bench at stake. Yes, this is one that could push the Supreme Court back into a conservative majority, because they are on a razor-thin margin. The April 2025 election to replace Bradley promises to be an expensive and bitter race. Yes, it does. I know that from the last 2 times we had a Supreme Court race in this state. And will likely feature some of the same momentous issues, like abortion rights and redistricting, that defined the 2023 race that ultimately gave Liberals their first majority on the bench in 15 years. In a statement, Bradley said she would not run for a 4th 10-year term on the court, saying it was a good time to bring fresh perspectives into the court. My decision does not come lightly, and it is made after careful consideration and reflection. I know I can do the job and do it well. I know I can win re-election should I run, but it's just time to pass the torch, wrote Bradley, who was elected to the technically nonpartisan court in 1995. Do not put Dan Kelly up again. God damn it. That's what I'm going to say about that one. And I like Dan Kelly. I'm not like my friend Wiz Political, who thinks that anything that Trump touches is tainted. I don't know how he is squaring the circle of Eric Hovde at this point. But I already know that, the entire world knows the stops they're going to pull out against this guy, because they've done it twice. And the only thing I don't like about that is the fact that I know that, and I've seen the Wisconsin GOP do it numerous times, they can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory like that. They're very good at it. But I would love to see this go back and have the opportunity to go back and shift it the other way. Fuck, I would vote for that. And this is, I have one that's on the line. Things I like and things that I hate. So in the wake of the Dexter Reed shooting in Chicago, we had the Citizens Oversight Board that has the authority to review all incidences, including those which no allegation of misconduct is made, and a mission of identifying and addressing a pattern of police misconduct. The former head of the DeSantis campaign decided that she had to come back in and weigh in on that, because DeSantis has signed legislation preventing localities from using political entities like a citizen oversight board to drive an anti-police agenda. Now, on the surface, in the spirit of this, I like this. I like the fact that there is a stance being made against the anti-police movements. Because even though I myself am also an anti-police person, I understand that the vast majority of society does need police to function, and I would never, ever, ever put my neck out there to deny the majority of society that. I just do my best to make sure that the majority of society doesn't turn them against me, and try to limit my interactions with police, including calling them on other people, in fact. But I have problems with this as well. Now, it looks like they do allow a certain level of civilian oversight boards, but they're directed by the government officials, whether elected or not. codifies the creation of civilian oversight boards to ensure they're directed by a county sheriff or chief of police, who are the people that the citizen oversight boards should be looking into at any time to see. The problem I have with this, and the reason that this is on the line, is because I have an innate distrust of government to begin with. And I know that in these situations like this, we're going to hear the words over and over again. We investigated ourselves and found we did nothing wrong. In fact, there's an article purely on the side of things that I hate coming up in 2 tabs. That is that exact same sentiment. We investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong. So, there's got to be a medium between making the government run a civilian oversight board and trying to eliminate anti-police sentiments, and just letting the anti-police sentiments run wild and try to defund police departments. We got to find a balance between the two, because I do look at this and I think that this is something that goes way too far in the other direction. Which is a lot of the big problem that I have with the DeSantis campaign to begin with. Alright, and a couple things that I hate. Bill Maher. A welcome and regular guest on this segment, by the way. Colin Rugg X's out. Room goes silent as Bill Maher admits that he thinks abortion is murder, but he's okay with that because there are 8 billion people in the world. My God, how evil do you have to be?
Not if you believe it's murder. You know, that's why I don't understand the 15-week thing. Or the Trump's plan is, let's leave it to the states. You mean, so killing babies is okay in some states? Like, I can respect the absolutist position. I really can. I scold the left on when they say, oh, you know what? They just hate women. People who aren't pro-life, they're pro-choice. They don't hate women. They just made that up. They think it's murder. And it kind of is. I'm just okay with that. I am. I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world. I'm sorry, we won't miss you. That's my position on it. What?
That's quite harsh, Bill.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not
Is
sure
that not your position if you're pro-choice?
Isn't that mainly because you don't like children? I mean...
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
I mean, but if you are, you said you're pro-choice. That's your position too. Not if you believe it's murder.
And Piers Morgan, if Piers Morgan is jumping in to try to save you from the left, you're fucking up in a hurry. And I'm sure a lot of people are pissed off with Bill Maher too, at the fact that he said basically the quiet part out loud. What everybody in that movement believes, but they don't want you to believe that because they would rather run on the fact that the people who don't think, or who do think it's murder, hate women. Let's grab one from NPC News. We don't have to go through the article, we know. But NPC News says there's no evidence that COVID vaccines cause fatal cardiac arrest or other deadly heart problems in teen and young adults. A CDC report, who put the green light on the holy jab, report finds. The new analysis debunks widespread misinformation about the mRNA vaccine that the CDC themselves signed off on. See, this is the end result of what it is that DeSantis and Pusha are trying to push through as far as law enforcement goes in Florida. We investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong. There's no oversight, no other opinion is welcome. Alright, and the last one. Again, not going to go into the article off this one. This is something that's been popping up over and over again. We did a lot of law and crime today, by the way. This is something that's been popping up a lot since St. George passed away fatefully on that Minneapolis street. A Texas man yelled, "I can't breathe," before being killed in police custody, body cam video shows. Well, they're all going to yell that, no matter what, because they all want to be the next viral person. Even if they don't die in police custody, they're going to start yelling that, hoping that it causes the police to kill them, and they get to go back and change the way of society, even if they can fully breathe. Because it is that massive anti-police sentiment to try to get somebody eliminated and put themselves into pure anarchy. Which again, I'd be okay with, but the rest of the country can't handle. I can't believe that we're in a situation where people think that this shit flies. Alright, I'm blackpilled. It must mean it's the end of the show. Breathe, 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 breathe. Smile. Okay, well, we are done for the night here. We've had a few people and a few lurkers, but we're going to head out of here for the night. So let's throw some outro music up and let's head out. Hey, look, that went back to being a Windows Media Player, not a VLC. So, where's my background music? I'm organized, I'm professional, I do this all the time, I promise. Anyway, thank you everybody who came by and hung out and chatted, and the people that didn't hang out and chat. We've had a few other people come in and lurk tomorrow, and the people who are listening back on the replay, either on audio or on video. Thank you so much, everybody who came by and hung out with that. We'll be back here next Tuesday for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And back tomorrow for a brand new game on our game rotation. We will be playing Diablo 2 Resurrected tomorrow, so come back and join me for that. And that'll be a bit of a buffer game because it's a short one while I get the technical bugs worked out to get the Switch working out here. And the next thing that we do after that will be Super Mario RPG The Legend of Seven Stars Remake, which I do have in my possession at this point. So that'll be coming up in the near future. Looking forward to seeing you guys here for that. And if you like what you see, go ahead and put a bookmark in here, hit the follow button, and come back and check it out on the replay, which will be available on YouTube. Well, by the morning it'll be available on YouTube. I will private the live stream, and a new recording, a fresh recording will be up for that, or you can catch us on the audio platforms on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, places like that. Come back and join me for that. Otherwise, we will see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Take care. Have a fantastic night, and we will see you here next time. Bye-bye.